Hello, everyone, and welcome to A New Direction. My name is Jay Izzo, and we are live here today. Going to be talking to you one-to-one, coach to business to person is what we're doing today. I have a topic that has been something that I have dealt with over the course of my career as a coach. And I say this statement all the time. It is this: there are no business problems. There are only personal problems that infect your business. And the best I could come up with the title for this show is Patient Zero: How You Infect Your Business. And I want to talk about this because there is a disconnect quite often that people who run a business or in business, if you're leadership on any business or organization, that we have this belief, and it's erroneous, that somehow we can compartmentalize our personal life from our business life, or our life in general from our business life. And somehow they just don't interact. They're two separate things. That what I do at the office and what I do in my life are two separate things. They don't interact with each other, and nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, I promise you, in my experience, that there are things that I see in business that are an absolute reflection of your personal life. If your personal life is a disaster, there are things in your business that is a disaster. And we're going to talk about those today. Please feel free to add your comments as I'm here live, and we'll be going for the next 50 minutes or so. And so I welcome that, and I enjoy to hear from you. If you want to email me somewhere down the road because you want to discuss this topic or a topic like that, it's real simple. Just write j@thecoachjay.com. That's j@thecoachjay.com. And I'll be happy to talk with you. So I want to start this off. We're going to be doing 3 segments. First segment, I'm going to call the diagnosis. And what we're going to focus on here is establishing the science of contagion, that you are patient zero. And a lot of people don't want to buy into it, as I said. And as a behavioral strategist, I'm telling you, your personal problems infect your business. Your business is a biological extension of your psychology. The fact of the matter is, if the head, that's you, the leader, is sick, the body's sick and it's dying. You are patient zero. And there's science behind this, by the way. Don't think I'm just making this up because I just think it sounds neat and it's cool. No, there's science behind this. So I want to give you a little bit of science background. The first thing I would talk about is what we call mirror neurons. And this comes from Giacomo Rizzolatti in his team at the University of Parma in Italy. This is back in the 90s. And what they discovered is that when your neurons fire, whenever we act or do something, the same neurons fire in others who are observing it. So when you're firing as a leader, whatever neurons are firing as leader, those same neurons seem to fire in your employees. So here's the application. So biologically, your employees' brains are wired to mimic whatever state you're in. If you're stressed, if you're happy, whatever it may be, if you walk in with panic, their brains and neurons light up with panic before you've even said a word. Before you said one word, the mirror neurons are happening, right? And this is important because, again, you're thinking that you're hiding all this, but we actually have this ability within ourselves that our neurons will fire just the same way yours are. And you don't realize, you think you're compartmentalizing it, but you know what? It's not what our neurons do. All right, so there's the mirror neurons. Now let me talk to you about the chemistry. You've heard of secondhand smoke. This is secondhand stress. And this comes from, this is published in Social Science and Medicine in 2016 by Oberl and Schonert-Reichel in 2016. This is a study, and they investigated the link between burnout and cortisol levels. And basically what they did is they found a direct correlation that when a leader is burned out or stressed, the student or the employees had significantly higher levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, in their saliva. By the way, they found the opposite's true. When the leader's not burned out or the leader's not stressed, guess what? They had lower levels of cortisol, that stress hormone, in their saliva. So there's this one-to-one correlation that really, really does appear that when you are going into the office and you're stressed out or you're anxious, all of a sudden the stress hormone cortisol is being elevated. By the way, we all know what cortisol does to our bodies, don't we? Right? What do? We tend to eat more. We tend to put on weight, right? Here's the application. You are literally changing the blood chemistry of your employees if you're stressed. You are the poison in the room. I know that you think that you're probably, making things better, by, I'm getting people to get going. It's not helping. We'll talk about some of this other stuff later, but I'm going to talk about the third one, and this is the physiological link. This piece of research has often been cited by Daniel Goleman, nominated Pulitzer for Pulitzer Prizes at least a couple times, is well known for his work and research in emotional intelligence, highly recognized throughout the world. Here's what he found. In close groups, heart rates and biological rhythms can synchronize, meaning that in your office area, people can have, over the course of time, they will synchronize their heart rate, their biological rhythms will all run at the same. And leaders have an effect on that. So if your heart is racing from anxiety, you're dragging your team into psychological chaos. The fact of the matter is, you become the thermostat for your business or your organization. And we don't realize that there is all of these things that are happening that you are, even without you knowing it, even if you think you're compartmentalizing it, even if you think you've got it under control, you don't. We have a way of recognizing those things that sometimes we're not even aware of. We don't understand why we're a little bit more tense or we're a little bit more stressed. It's because whatever the leadership does has an unconscious effect on what we do. And this is where you've got to become more self-aware. And as I will say probably till ad nauseum, is that the research done by Dr. Tasha Urich, who is absolutely outstanding. Everybody wants to think they're so self-aware. In fact, she did the study I think was done with university professors. 95% of them said that they were self-aware. Right? When it really came down, on their best day, they were maybe 15% of them were self-aware. Maybe. The point is, we're not as self-aware of how we walk into a room and our effect is on a room. We change the environment. This is why you as a leader have a greater effect than you even realize, depending on the attitude that you bring in. So we're going to talk about next the 3 viral strains, the internal saboteurs, if you will, when it comes to being patient zero. I'm going to just talk about these little different viruses that we have that I see quite commonly. One is the adrenaline virus. This is the 2 a.m. emailer. You may know this. You can't sleep, so you wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever the early hour is, and you start pumping out emails. If you've done that, raise your hand. Not if you're driving a car, don't do that, please. So here's the symptom. You can't sleep, so you work. Because what you've done is you've equated anxiety with productivity. So if I'm feeling anxious, then I need to be productive. You know what the infection is? Here's the infection. When you do that, you infect the team with false urgency. So they start running around like their hair's on fire because you can't self-regulate yourself. And so now they're feeling anxious because they got to be more productive. And you know what? They become busy, but they're not really doing anything. And you're getting more frustrated. That's what happens when you have the adrenaline virus. All right. Strain number 2. This is called the insecurity virus or the bottleneck. The insecurity virus or the bottleneck. This is where some of you are control freaks and you feel like you have to sign off on everything. Right? You got to sign. I won't do it unless I sign off on it. Here's the infection. You infect the team with what's called learned helplessness. And what happens over time is they stop thinking because you've trained them that only your thoughts matter. Now, if you don't understand learned helplessness, let me just tell you that this learned helplessness has been around for many decades. Dr. Martin Seligman was the one who really put it into prominence. We actually learned it from World War II, where we found that no matter the hostages during the Holocaust, the prisoners of war, the Jewish prisoners of war, what we learned was that no matter what they would do to them, they just didn't care anymore. They quit trying. They didn't care if they got beaten. They didn't care about anything anymore. It's learned helplessness. We have been able to reproduce this over and over and over and over again, that after a while, when people recognize that there is nothing that they can do to stop something, then they become learned helpless. They're just helpless. They learn this helplessness. And you may not even realize that you're doing this to your people, that, what you're doing is, you have to sign off on everything. So they learn, why should I even try? You've classically conditioned them, basically, like Pavlov did with a dog, where he has the food, the sound of the bell, and measured the saliva, and then eventually took away the food and just rang the bell, and the dog would salivate. You've actually created a form of this in learned helplessness, where people realize that if they try, it isn't going to be good enough anyway. So then you wonder why nobody's taking initiative. Well, the reason why they're not taking initiative is because, why? You have to sign off on everything. Why should they try? Just let you do it. And then you're frustrated because you go, well, I want them to take initiative. Well, why should they take initiative? You got to sign off on it anyway. You have to make everything an approval. So what's the point? Everything's wrong that they're going to do. That's the second strain. The third strain is called the apathy virus. And here's the thing, and I've run across you folks. You are personally bored or burned out. You just don't have the energy anymore. And then what happens is, because you're burned out, you lack compassion fatigue, and that's very real. What happens is you infect the culture with stagnation. And so the team's stagnating, right? Because you're burned out. And that becomes a huge problem for you and for your business. So when we come back, we're going to take just a 30-second break here. When we come back, we're going to take a look at your sales numbers. What if your people aren't selling? And I'm going to show you how you infected them with doubt, that you may not even realize what you've done. I'm Coach Jay, and you're listening to me here on A New Direction. Hey, folks, we all know that buying and selling a home isn't just a transaction. It's a major life transition, right? Whether you're buying your first place, making room for a new baby, or downsizing for retirement, or somewhere in between, it can be incredibly stressful. That is why you need the Linda Craft team. For more than 40 years, Linda and her team have been helping people in the Research Triangle Park community and other communities navigate these big life changes. The team doesn't just sell houses, they take the stress out of the process so you can focus on the future. So don't go it alone. Let 40 plus years of experience work for you. Visit lindacraft.com. That's LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction. And we're talking about something that I have been preaching for years now. It's not an original idea, but something that I was turned on to and have really studied in my time as a coach, that there are no business problems. There are just personal problems that infect your business. And we're moving into segment 2, and we're going to talk about how you are patient zero, by the way, you're the problem. Okay. And we're going to talk about how the infection manifests as a specific business failure. All right. And so I'm going to go through some symptoms and then we're going to talk through them. First symptom is this: my people aren't selling. How many of you get that? I can't get my people to sell. I just want them to sell more. They aren't selling. And oftentimes I hear a complaint that goes, my team's lazy. They're just order takers. They're not hunters. They don't close. They're just like baby birds. They just want me to feed them the worms, right? And they don't want to do anything themselves, all right? This is what we call certainty infection. So let me tell you how I analyze this. Sales is a transfer of certainty. If you as the leader are operating out of the adrenaline virus, do you remember that? You're panicked about cash flow, and so you can't sleep, so you're up throwing out those emails, and because you've got more ideas and you want to throw ideas. Your salespeople feel it. And here's what they're feeling. They're feeling the smell of desperation from you. If you're pressing them because you're personally freaked out about money, what do you think they're going to do? Well, then you're going to start transferring over to them. They're going to start pressing clients harder. And what happens to conversion rates, do you think, when they start pressing clients harder? You're right, they go straight down. Because they're anxious, because you're anxious, because you're telling them, we got to sell more, 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 we got to sell more. And then what happens is, so they're feeling this pressure. And so then all of a sudden they know you're anxious, right? The mirror neurons click in, right? They're all of a sudden cortisol levels are off the chart. They're emotionally in sync with you, so that now that they're physiologically got the same rhythms, and so they're feeling everything you're feeling because you're passing it down the line. They could tell it. And so then what happens is, actually, the great salespeople turn into horrible salespeople. And this is because you've infected the sales process with your own scarcity mindset. It's not an abundance mindset. And you have to understand that we transfer mindsets as well. Because if your mindset says, I got to press, what do you think they're going to do? Here's the truth. You cannot lead a hunter kind of sales team if you're acting like the prey. I'm going to say that again. You cannot lead a sales team of hunters if you're acting like the prey yourself. And that's what a scarcity mindset does. Symptom number 2. I don't have enough time. I'm overwhelmed. I'm all alone. I'm doing everything by myself, right? This is what we call the trust and ego infection. So I have a question for you. Why do you hoard tasks? Because I'll tell you why, because it's a personal problem. It's called hero syndrome. And you go, I'm not trying to be the hero. Listen, if you're hoarding all the tasks that other people can do, right? Because you don't want to let go of certain tasks because you're afraid that everything's going to fall apart. Can I tell you what you've done is you said that you're the hero. Nothing will survive without me. Well, I'm going to argue back to you and say, okay, well, if it can't survive without you, then you haven't created the systems and processes and things that you need to do in order for the system or for the business to run without you. If you're saying I'm the only one who can do it right, that's not a business strategy. That is a personal insecurity that requires validation, and that's hero syndrome. Here's the truth. You're choking your business because you need to feel essential. I know you're saying to me, Jay, I'm not consciously, you may not consciously be doing it, but you are doing it. By the way, I see this over and over and over and over again. When I have coached people and people want to stop with me, and I tell them to let go, right? And people don't want to hear that because they feel like if they don't do it, it can't get done. The fact of the matter is, it's the reason why people can't get to that next level. It's one of the reasons. I mean, there's other reasons too. I mean, sometimes people just want to do things their own way and they're just unwilling to change or be coachable. That, yes, that happens too. But I find oftentimes that when leaders are stuck in hero syndrome, that if I don't do it, it's just never going to be done, or it's never going to be done the right way, or the business can't survive without me, whatever. That's hero syndrome. That's all that is. All right, symptom number 3. This is the toxic culture drama symptom here. Here's the complaint that I'll hear. Everybody seems on edge, and there's a lot of, gossip going on in the background. All right, so why does this happen? This is what I refer to as the regulation infection. So do you remember when I talked about, there's that physiological link that Daniel Goleman talked about, that we have everything in sync, and then we also talked about the mirror neurons, right? Remember the earlier stuff they talked about? Here's the thing. If the leader is erratic, right? The culture's erratic. If the leader is a mess mentally or emotionally, your team is a mess mentally or emotionally. If you're uncertain about your life and where you're going, your team is uncertain about where they're going. And I'm going to say this to you. This comes down to when leaders change their mind, because you're changing your mind regularly, right? I'm not going to say always, but here's the thing. If you're waking up in the middle of the night and you've set down something, so we're going to do this, then you go, hey, upon further review, if you start saying upon further review, or, hey, I'm going to change this on a regular basis, let me tell you what's happening to your team. Your team stops trusting your vision. They stop working. Why? Because they're waiting for you to change your mind again. Because you got a new idea, so here it comes. We can't even run with this idea for a while because you keep changing your mind. How can they be so confident in a vision that you set forth if what you've done is you keep changing your mind because something new comes in and you just keep changing it over and over and over again? They just stop. Where are we going? Where are we headed? And it doesn't matter what I do, because you as the leader are going to change your mind. And so we have to have a pivot here. And I got good news and I got bad news. All right. I'm going to start with the bad news first. Here's the bad news. Bad news is you have made your team sick. It's you. Here's the good news. You're also the cure. Yeah. The thing is, you can change. You can adopt new mindsets and you can change. You can do some new things. You are the cure to all of this. I I know it's not going to be easy. I know it's going to be difficult. I know that it's going to be a challenge. I know that you're going to resist it because you're so reliant on what's worked for you in the past that you don't see that, in fact, that how you've worked in the past has not really been all that effective. Yeah, maybe you've had a little bit of success, but the reason that you're not achieving greater success, is because you keep relying on things you did before. And you're counting on those things to provide the same amount of success as maybe you had earlier when those things really, really worked. But I need to remind you of something. Things have changed, times have changed. As human beings, we've relatively stayed pretty much the same. The difference between human beings today and human beings in the 20th century is this: we have access to far more information than we ever had. In fact, I read a study somewhere that said in 1 year since, I think it's 2020, if you look at 2020 and you look at 100 years from 1900 to 1999, we've actually taken in more information than they did in 100 years in 1 year. That's right. I want you to think about that. We are consuming more information in 1 year than they did in 100 years from 1900 to 1999. That's how much information we're consuming. And yet we're trying to rely on, well, we just need to go back and we need to do this. Folks, those type of strategies are what keep you back into this hero syndrome of, I know what works. Folks, we cannot take a 20th century model into the 21st century. So when we come back, I'm going to give you the protocols. These are specific things that you could do today to stop the infection. Things that you could do today to stop the infection. I'm Coach Jay Izzo, and you're listening to me here on A New Direction. Hey, folks, Linda Craft Team Realtors. If you're planning a move, you have to check out lindacraft.com. Honestly, it's more than just home listings. I get it. It's important, but it's more than that. Linda and her team understand that moving impacts your whole family, including your children and your pets. That's why her website features exclusive advice from a child psychologist on how to help kids adjust to a move, and even tips from a veterinarian on moving with pets. It's a complete emotional resource center for your entire family. And so much more is going on there, including an outstanding show that they do called Real Estate Right Now. See the difference for yourself. Log on today at lindacraft.com. That's LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction, and we're talking about patient zero. You are the infection in your business as a leader or organization, doesn't matter. I want to spend the remainder of our time talking about the antidotes and some homework. And so I have a treatment plan that I put together with some immediate actionable steps that you can do. So I'm going to give you the first protocol, protocol 1, which is what I call the drafts folder, drafts, DRAFTS, drafts folder rule. And this is the cure for the adrenaline virus. You know, the people who get up at 2 a.m. in the morning and they want to know, how do I stop this? You know, I got to put out all these emails because I got all this stuff going through my head and I got to get it out. And I got to throw all these emails out to everybody and everything. So let's remind ourselves of the problem. You're the leader who wakes up at 2 a.m. in the morning and fires off emails, right? And the psychology is you're using your staff basically as an emotional support animal. Yes, I just said that. That's what you're doing. You're using your staff and your team as an emotional support animal. You are dumping your anxiety onto their phones or their tablets or their emails, and because it makes you feel better because you feel you got to get it out. So we got to fix this, right? So I'm going to give you a quick fix. Here's the fix. Ready for this? Write the email, get it out of your head, but don't send it. schedule it. Schedule it. If your workday starts at 9, schedule it for 8:30. If it starts at 8, schedule it for 7:30, but schedule it. By the way, if you're using Outlook, right? If you've not, I just have messed with this recently because I found this to be something for myself. If you type up an email, there's actually right above on your left-hand side up there, it says schedule. And you can schedule your email out for whatever time you want to put it out. Stop bothering your people at 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. So many of us, right or wrong, listen, right or wrong, put yourself in their position. Right or wrong, some of the people sleep with the phone next to their bed, okay? And then you're firing off an email and the phone's going off. Now, why is this such a big deal to me? I'm going to tell you. Here is why. And I don't know that anybody else is going to ever say this to you. So I'm going to say this to you, and I think I'm the only one who will. And it's this. Sleep is a business strategy. And you might be saying, what? I'll say it again. Sleep is a business strategy. And here's why. I'm going to give you the psychology, the physiological brain stuff that goes on here. When you're tired, you operate from what an area, a structure we call the amygdala. You may have heard of amygdala hijack, right? Well, that's basically what's happening. You've been hijacked. And in this case, it's operating out of fear. Okay. When you're rested, you operate from the prefrontal cortex. That's right up in here behind your forehead. If you can't see me. Now you're operating from strategy. So let me ask you a question. You think through this with me. Think through it with me. Do you want to operate out of fear or do you want to operate out of strategy? Because if you're waking people up early in the morning, what are you doing to them? You've now, just what I talked about at the very beginning of the show, your fear is now been transferred over to them because they go, oh my gosh, I got to look at it. Boss is calling me. Boss is sending me an email. It must be really, really important if they're going to do it at 2 a.m. in the morning or 3 a.m. in the morning. Sleep is a business strategy. So folks, leaders, CEOs, business owners, whatever, stop it. Your people need sleep. If you want to operate at the highest level, stop bothering them. Right? Sleep is the business strategy. We want to operate from the prefrontal cortex, not from the amygdala, and be amygdala hijacked. Okay? With me? All right. Protocol number 2. This is what I call the so that, and I did air quotes, behavioral audit. So that. And you go, what do you mean so that? Well, okay. So I want you to identify here your hidden motives behind your business complaints. But you got to be really honest with yourself, and meaning that you've got to really take a deep dive into you, that you really got to look deeply within yourself and take a look at this. So for example, the exercise has finished this sentence. Example, I am micromanaging this project so that I don't have to face the fear that I hired the wrong person. Here's another one. I'm keeping this toxic employee so that I don't have to have an uncomfortable confrontation because I don't deal with confrontation very well. It could be, I have to send these emails at this time in the morning so that I can feel better about me regardless of what happens to anybody else. Right? So whatever it is, what I want you to do is, here's what I'm doing so that, and to be real about what's really behind it. Now, this requires real radical transparency with yourself. And we're not often very comfortable with that because we don't want to admit that we have a problem, or we're at fault, or we have some sort of emotional, mental issues, right? We don't want to believe that. We don't want to think that. Folks, we do. And whether you want to admit them or not, as I told you earlier in the show, your people are sensing it, they're feeling it, they're getting it through a variety of different ways unconsciously that you're not even aware of. You're doing it to them anyway, so you might as well own it. All right? Own it. Okay. So I want to give you some homework. So here's some homework I want you to write down. We're going to call this the Scent Folder Autopsy. The Scent Folder Autopsy. So as soon as the show ends, here's what I want you to do. I want you to open your email sent folder and or your Slack text actually, or your Slack text messages from the last 7 days. Last 7 days. All right. Open your sent folder and if you have a Slack or text, messages from the last 7 days. And then here's what I want you to do. I want you to look for the infection markers. And what are those? The first infection marker is the timestamp. How many of these emails or texts or Slacks did you send after 7 p.m. or before 6 a.m.? So looking at the last 7 days, how many emails, Slacks, texts did you send after 7 p.m. and before 6 a.m.? You got to do this. This is the autopsy. And if this is what you're doing. When you're seeing that you've sent X number after 7 p.m. and X number before 6 a.m., that is you leaking stress, by the way. That's you. That's you, patient zero, you, leader, you, owner, founder, CEO, boss, manager, whatever. If you start seeing that you've got a number of emails or Slacks or texts that are after 7 p.m. or before 6 a.m., you're leaking stress. Why? Why are you doing it? It's not because they need to see it then. So why are you doing it? And then here's the second infection marker I want to look at. So we're going to timestamp it. This is the scent. This is our scent folder autopsy. But here's the second infection marker. Tone check. Tone check. I want you to read your emails as if you were a stranger. Read your emails, read your texts, read your Slacks as if you were a stranger, as if you knew nothing, if you weren't part of the team, if you weren't anything. Do you sound encouraging? Do you sound frantic? Do you sound brief? Do you sound a little passive aggressive? What's the tone if you were reading this as a stranger? So often what happens is that we don't really realize that in our anxious, stressful moments of sending out these emails or Slacks or texts, whatever they may be, what we don't realize is if a complete stranger read them, they would go, oh my gosh, what is wrong with your boss, your CEO, your leader? What's wrong with them? First of all, why are they writing so early in the morning? And then two, read how this reads. I couldn't work for a person like that. That's what they may say. But see, this is where you got to get honest with yourself. Because so often we don't want to be honest with ourselves about it because actually we think we're in the right. And we never consider that we may be in the wrong. So here's the action. If you find the infection, if you find this infection, here's what you need to do. You need to issue a recall. Yep, you need to go to your team tomorrow, right away and say, hey, listen, I realize I've been communicating out of stress, not strategy. I'm hitting reset. And please call me out again so I can stop doing this. Be honest. Be transparent. Your team will appreciate the authenticity. They'll appreciate the fact that you're saying, hey, listen, I'm not doing this right. Remember when I told you, I said, you know what, you've created the infection, but you're also part of the cure. This is how you start creating the cure. Next protocol, sanitize your inputs. Sanitize your inputs. Here's what you need to know. Whenever we get an infection, it often comes from the outside. So here's what I need you to identify. I want you to pay attention to your routines, especially your morning routines, but throughout the course of the day. I want you to identify one media source or one person that spikes your blood pressure, whether it's the news, it could be somebody that you have as a friend, it could be a pessimistic peer. Just identify one person, one media source, something that is affecting your blood pressure, right? And I know the pushback, I get this all the time. I need to know what's going on in the world. No, you don't. You're going to know. I promise you, there is no piece of information that you can't live without. I promise you that. It's not going to change your world. You don't need to know. And you're going to know anyway, because you know why? Because all that stuff filters in. It's going to be in another conversation. But if you're starting your day with, media about all of the stuff that's happening in the world, all the stuff that's negatively happening, or you got somebody who you can't get out of your head because of things that they said to you, and they constantly say things that bother you or hurt you or put you in a negative mood or cause your heart rate to get up or stress you out or make you feel anxious, whatever that may be, here's the homework. I want you to do the no contact rule for 24 hours. No contact, 24 hours. No media, whatever the person is, stop it. No contact. I want a no contact for 24 hours. And then I want you to pay attention to not only how you feel, but I want you to pay attention to how your people respond to you in those moments. That's your homework, the 24-hour no contact. And I want to say this to you. As someone who started practicing this years ago, right? I know what's going on in the world. I'm not oblivious to it. I know what's going on. I get it from a variety of sources. A lot of them are non-traditional. I know what's going on. I don't try to go out and seek it. Just headlines come by me all the time, right? And I have to sort out who's the source and whether it's, believable or not believable, because what I recognize with national media outlets is they have to say things in ways that will create an emotional reaction. Because if they were to just report the news, this is what exactly happened, and they were to report the facts, right? Even fewer people would pay attention than what they have. So they have to create, and if you pay attention, and I'm going to tell you the psychology of studying this. I have studied the words that they use in news broadcasts, and they use specific verbiage and words that will emotionally charge you, that will emotionally make you anxious, that will emotionally create some sort of reaction. So the reaction is either they want you to feel incredible hate and disdain, or they want you to feel incredibly encouraged, or, yes, I'm for that. And what you're not paying attention to is that the words are very carefully crafted for that. There is a psychology to words that you just do not, that the average person in the public does not understand. And there is a lie that has been perpetuated since the time we've been children, that sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's not true. In fact, words do hurt. Words actually will make us feel anxious. Words can make us feel good. Words can encourage us. Words can discourage us. The fact of the matter is those words are carefully selected to create some sort of emotional reaction. Stop it. Stop it. It's not helping you. It's not helping your team. It's not helping your people. because you're absorbed into it. Because that's the truth. So let's recap. Let's recap what we're going to do here. All right. So first of all, we're going to do the sent folder autopsy, right? What are we going to do? We're going to scan the last 7 days, last 50 emails, last 7 days of text, Slacks, and we're going to check to see if how many we're posting after 7 and how many before 6 a.m. And the question we're going to ask ourselves, are you broadcasting stress or strategy? And look at your timestamps, right? Those are the two symptoms of those are the two infections we're looking for. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to call it the so that journal, right? You're going to write down your biggest business problem, whatever the biggest business problem is. And you're going to finish the sentence. I'm allowing this problem to exist so that, and what I want you to do is find the personal emotional benefit you're getting from the drama. And here's the challenge for you. You are getting some sort of emotional benefit from it, whether you like it or not. And whether you want to agree with it, maybe you are in the hero syndrome. Maybe it is, you know why? Because I feel like so that I could feel like no one else, so that I could feel like I'm the hero because no one else could do it better than me. Maybe it's so that I can have control of everything because I'm absolutely a control freak. Maybe it's so that other people will do it because I'm so burned out I can't do it myself. Maybe whatever it may be, I want you to be really, really honest with that question. And then the third one is the 24-hour quarantine. Pick one source of negativity in your life, cut it out for 24 hours. It's probably the news, right? It really is. It's probably the news, right? And then I want to kind of close off with a kind of a final thought or two. I call this show A New Direction. And, I focus on business and leadership and success and purpose and trying to help you get there. That's my goal is I want to help you get there because I care. I'm still working on me too. Right? I don't have this all down. Right? I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm still reading. I'm interviewing authors and on the show, and I'll be interviewing some leaders, talking about a number of different things because I'm still learning too. I don't have this all down. But if you want a new direction in your business or organization, it's going to start with a healthy leader. And that's you. You cannot heal your business or your organization until you heal the mindset and behavior of the person in the mirror. And that's you. You can't do it. You have to look at you first. And you have to get honest with yourself. And you got to stop being defensive. If your first reaction to anything that I've said here today has been, well, that's not me. Or you're picking on me. Because, no, I'm not picking on anybody. And it's not being defensive. It's about just telling you the truth about, listen, we all need to change. I need to change. Right? I mean, I put myself in this. In fact, I just had a coaching client session earlier today where I had to go back and apologize to people on the sales and marketing team because I am pushing so hard because I have this anxiety of wanting to make this company grow and be really, really successful. And I'm pushing with so many ideas and I'm pushing the people so hard. And you want to know something? I apologized to them today. And I hadn't given enough thought into what are you working on? Tell me everything you're working on right now. And they came back and they were telling me all these things they're working on. And I'm like, here I am. They have got so much on their plate. So much stuff on their plate. And some of it is so urgent and important. And here I come in as this coach who wants to make these amazing changes. And we will get there. But I had to stop because my anxiety of wanting to do, right? Because I want to achieve something and I want to achieve it in a certain amount of time was actually creating more stress on the sales and marketing team in this company. I had to apologize to him. I had to, because this was about me leading them down the wrong path because of my anxiety. My anxiety was creating their problems. And I can promise you that even with somebody like me who knows this stuff, who speaks on this stuff, who talks this stuff, who studies this stuff, if I can fall into these traps, right? Because I got into my own hero syndrome, right? I'm going to be the Superman. I'm going to save it. But that's not really the way it's supposed to work. I have to create relationships and I have to get on their level and I have to understand from their perspective. So I'm going to remind you of the bad news and the good news. The bad news is you made them sick. The good news is you're the cure. Stay with me. You know what? This has been the show. Thank you for joining me today. I love doing these shows every now and then. I've got a chance to do a couple of these shows, and I enjoy it. But I want to just remind you, you're in control of three things: your attitude, your effort, and your resiliency. Life doesn't always give us what we want. We find ourselves in circumstances we didn't choose, but we're in control of our attitude, which is not always easy. Take control of that because that is your choice. You're also in control of your effort, which is tied to your excellence. You may not have the same amount of energy on any given day, but you can be as excellent as you possibly can be with the energy you have. Remember, sleep is a strategy. And then 3 is resiliency. We're all going to get punched in the gut or punched in the teeth. It's up to us to get back up. Why? Because you're worth it, and we want you on the team. I'm going to be back next week with another great guest. It's going to be another great show. You had a lot of choices. You chose us. Thank you for doing that. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Wherever you're listening to us by podcast, give us a 5-star review. Tell your friends. Shoot me an email. It's just real easy. jay@thecoachjay.com. JAY@the, coach, JAY.com. Love to hear from you. Love to find out what you'd like to talk about. And as I say to you all over the world, you know what that is. Ciao, everybody.